This is Duke University.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our guest speaker for the Distinguished Speaker Series, Mr. Doug McMillon, President and CEO of Wal-Mart Stores. In 1984, Mr. McMillon started out as an hourly summer associate in Wal-Mart distribution centers. In 1990, while pursuing his MBA at the University of Tulsa, he rejoined Wal-Mart as an assistant manager before moving into merchandising as a buyer trainer. He went on to serve in successful leadership roles in all of Wal-Mart's business segments, including Sam's Club and the Wal-Mart's international operations. Mr. McMillon was named the president and CEO of Wal-Mart Stores in 2014 and has served on Wal-Mart's board of directors since 2013. Under his leadership, Wal-Mart is bringing together its stores, logistic networks, and digital commerce capabilities in new ways to empower customers to shop wherever, whenever, and however they want. Mr. McMillon serves on the board of directors of the Consumer Goods Forum and the U.S. Business Council. He has also been recognized as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum.
That was a long time ago.
Please join me in giving Mr. McMillon a warm Fuqua welcome.
So it's a great privilege to have you here. Thank you so much. So we discovered today that we both joined our respective organizations in 1984. And so my question to you is that earlier I said that makes us both dinosaurs, but to be more serious, what kept you at Wal-Mart for all those years as opposed to the more traditional path of these days of jumping around from job to job and company to company?
Yeah, my first time with Walmart was just to make a little money during the summertime to help pay my way through school, and I didn't mean to be there very long at all. I think the two things looking back that kept me there were challenge and culture. The values of Walmart aligned to my personal values, and I haven't been bored one single day. This is really a challenging industry, and I like that a lot.
So where we diverge is that, coming back to this theme of youth, you became very successful at a very early age. You were a CEO before, if my math is correct, before you were 40 years old, when you took on the CEO of the Sam's Club role. Right. So what was it that allowed you to progress so quickly into leadership roles in your career?
Well, it wasn't part of the plan, but I think looking back, what happened is that I really liked what I was doing, and I volunteered a lot for extra stuff. So I walked in the door at Walmart, and for those of you that have job offers from us that you have not accepted yet, listen to this story. I walked into Walmart and they handed me a responsibility for almost $1 billion worth of purchasing the first morning. So I was in charge of fishing tackle for Walmart when I walked into the office the first day, and without a lot of training, no training really. And so I had responsibility, I had accountability, and I liked what I had and tried to make it better, and I kept volunteering. So when there was a project or my boss was out of town and somebody needed to go to a meeting, I would say, I'll go. And I would find myself in these situations where sometimes I didn't always know the answer, and I got comfortable, as we're encouraged to at Walmart, in saying, I don't know, but I'll find out, and I'll get back to you quickly. It's a good formula for success inside our company. And so people saw me handling a responsibility one level up, which made it easy for them to promote me. So I ended up getting moved pretty frequently.
Yeah. Did you ever hit a point where you felt like you got in over your head because you were so willing to embrace these roles?
This week.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't count. Too late. But did you ever hit a point where you thought, I may have derailed my career because I've been taking on things so rapidly?
Yeah. One day I got paged to come to our chief merchant's office, and I was buying candy and food. And he said, you've done a good job with candy and food. I want you to go buy ladies' wear You work in ladies' wear on Monday, and you're responsible for ladies' woven tops and related separates. And I said, okay. And I walked out of the office and found the first female associate I could find and said, what's a woven top?
What is it? No.
So you get pushed into these jobs, and you have to learn quickly how to adapt, who to listen to. In my case, I was never going to be able to select what should be on the floor of a Walmart store from an apparel point of view. So finding suppliers that I could trust and letting them make some decisions, and me managing the situation and managing the inventory is kind of how I approached that job. But I had so many different jobs. Each time you had to start over. I think that's what kept me there, is I was challenged every so often with something dramatically different. Go work in international for a while. Go to Sam's Club. Go to merchandising. Learn real estate. They just kept me interested, but I have to constantly be reminding yourself how much you don't know.
Yeah. So presumably on this career journey, you found mentors who helped you with the things that you did not know. How did you become connected to those mentors?
Well, probably very similar to how all of you would build relationships here or in the workplace. You get attracted to certain skill sets or people. And I think along the way I figured out that this person had a way to think about merchandising, the art of merchandising, that I really liked and respected. What can I learn from them on that issue? This person is great at execution, and I see consistent results, and they're strong managers. What can I learn from that person? Just like taking tools and putting them into your toolbox. So the toolbox that I work with today has tools on it with Lee Scott's name on it, the former CEO of Walmart. It has Mike Duke tools. It has Don Harris tools. It has Vanessa Castagna tools. That's what happens. You just pick up all these skill sets from others.
Yeah. So you have a group in front of you at the front end of their careers, and they'll be making choices presumably around, do they stay where they are in the company, or do they decide to take on a new opportunity? I have to believe that given your success at Walmart in various roles and becoming a CEO at such an early age, that you've been approached to do other things. How did you weigh those choices in your head in terms of, do you stay or do you go?
I think life is short, and you gotta be where you feel like you should be. And I didn't, again, intend for this to happen with me. I just ended up in this environment that I really liked so much. So when people call, I don't tend to get down that path very far before I'm saying no and getting back to work. Other people listen, and there's no harm in listening to opportunities. And some of you may go to work for businesses and then leave and go start businesses, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You got to find your own journey and your own path. But again, I think you've got to find a spot where you're aligned from a values point of view, whether you're joining a company that somebody else started or you're starting your own. It's about purpose. It's about values. You're trying to, when you look back, you got to begin with the end in mind. When you look back on your professional career, you want to feel fulfilled, like you've accomplished something. So every day that you go to work, if you don't see yourself on that track and you go for too many days where you feel that way, you probably do need to do something different. Mm-hmm. But if, on the other hand, you feel like you found the right spot, there is nothing wrong with staying and just building something.
So how much of your time do you spend thinking about building and sustaining the culture of Walmart, which is built on such a strong foundation?
Yeah, a lot. Specifically, shaping the culture and changing the culture is what my leadership team and I are focused on at the moment. To understand that, you need to know what our 4 core values are. They're respect for the individual, strive for excellence, serving the customer, and acting with integrity. And those 4 core values have been around in Walmart for a long time. They're written down after watching Sam Walton work. When he started the company, he didn't say, these are our 4 core values and stamp it into stone. He just was an entrepreneur working, and others around him saw those behaviors. They wrote them down and said, these are the things that we believe in. So our behaviors, culture, needs to match those set of values. As companies grow and as time goes on, it gets misshaped. And you lose, in some cases, aspects that were there when the founder was there. For example, Sam Walton held people accountable. If you work in Walmart, you frequently are presented a Sam Walton that looks like a grandfather, loving, appreciative. He was all those things, but he also held people accountable to performance. And I have heard firsthand stories of him doing that and know that he did it. So striving for excellence, one of our 4 core values, embedded in that is accountability, personal performance accountability. We need to, in today's Walmart, drive that up. So we're trying to shape the culture behaviorally as we embrace technology, as we change in a transformational way how Walmart serves customers. Be consistent on those core values, but sharpen up the behavior associated with them. And we talk about this all the time, so that that engine that is culture generates the right results.
Yeah. So if I can talk about respect a little bit as one of those core values. We're living in a society now where we're deeply divided, and what one person thinks is right, another person thinks is wrong, and so you have to make certain choices that you feel represent the interests of Walmart. So you were telling me this story about a wrestling toy. Can you elaborate on a choice you had to make years ago?
Yeah, we were talking earlier about when do you make a public stance and when do you not? And it may be that in the coming months and years that we have to do that, because we've had to do some of it in the past, and it may continue to be the case. And my first experience was almost 15 years ago. I was managing the toy department and a number of other merchandising areas at Walmart. And a buyer walked into my office, and they had a wrestling action figure in their hand, and it was a male wrestler holding the head of a woman that he had ripped off of her body in his hand. So this action figure had her body, a detached head, and a male wrestler. And the buyer had written an assortment order, and so they didn't approve every single item. The buyer had never seen this. The supplier had it in their assortment, and they just shipped it into the store. So it was a surprise to all of us, including the buyer. And they said, what do we do? And for me, that was a no-brainer. Get it out of the store. So issue a recall, get it out today, and I want to know that the stores have acted on that and that it's no longer in our assortment by the end of the day. That person went to back to work to go do that. Well, CNN somehow heard about it, and they popped a web poll up. That may be hard for you to believe. It was 15 years ago, but the internet did exist. I'm hearing that sound, that squelching sound that we used to hear when we connected to the internet in my head. And at the end of the day, thousands of people, I can't remember exactly how many, had voted, and it was literally a dead heat. It was 50-50. The question was, did Walmart make the right decision pulling this action figure from their assortment? And it had the picture of the action figure on it, and it was 50-50. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. But that, I think, is indicative of the world that we live in today for probably several reasons. And so we, Walmart, are a retailer. We're a merchant. We're trying to serve customers, and we want to serve everybody. So how do we navigate in an environment that feels so divided in many cases? Hopefully it's not as divided as it appears, and not alienate groups of people while standing for who we are. And when we face these situations, the first thing that goes through my mind is, what is our purpose? What are our values? Now, how do you address this circumstance that's right in front of you?
Yeah. So let me fast forward from 15 years ago to an incident in the last couple of years where you made a public statement urging the governor of Arkansas to veto the Religious Freedom Bill. Can you help us understand? I mean, it seems like these are things that CEOs have to think about more often. When will you make a public statement? So can you walk us through what led you to make that choice, and then maybe tell us a little bit about the after effects of that choice?
So the circumstance was approaching. We could see it coming, and we were hoping that we wouldn't have to say anything because it would not happen. And we were communicating along the way, if this were to happen, this is kind of the response you would expect from me and us. because Walmart has 4 core values. One of them is respect for the individual. We believe in diversity and inclusion. Just like we want all kinds of people to shop at Walmart, we want all kinds of people to work at Walmart. And so in some circumstances, you can't be silent when literally your core value as a company is being touched in a way that your own associates feel it. You have to step up and say something and set an example. It wasn't popular with everybody, and you have to be comfortable receiving criticism in a leadership role. It's not what you want to do, but you have to get used to that. And when this last election happened, some CEOs wrote letters to try and help people deal with the circumstance, regardless of how they felt about it. In our case, we happened to have an officers meeting that Friday and what we call a Saturday morning meeting. Once a month, we still get together on Saturday mornings, believe it or not. It's a meeting that dates back to Sam Walton, and we celebrate the culture of the company, talk about our business. We have special guests in. We have fun. Celebrities come, and we talk about our business, and we talk about culture. So I had 2 public internal meetings to talk about what this moment meant to us. And it really does, in our lens, look pretty simple. We are who we are, regardless of politics. Politics will change. Leaders will change. We work in 28 countries. We have all kinds of political environments that we operate in around the world. But we know who we are. We know what our purpose is. We know what our values are. We know what we stand for. And so just talking out loud about who we are, what I expect from our teams. I mentioned to you just a minute ago, I swung into a store here this morning in Durham and got a chance to visit with a group of our associates in the training room for about 45 minutes. And in that room, we had associates from Ghana, El Salvador, people that were born and raised here in North Carolina. We had African Americans, Caucasians, Hispanics, and they've become not just a team, but a family. And they used that word with me about each other. And that's who we need to be. We need to be, Walmart needs to be at every moment and this moment, a group that brings people together and makes people feel comfortable when they shop or when they work at Walmart, that they can be who they are and that we're going to stand for what's important every day.
So recently, you've made a very big investment in that family. I think it's been characterized as a $2.7 billion investment in terms of increased wages, training, and education for your associates. Can you explain to us what has happened as a consequence of this decision to increase wages for your employees?
Mm-hmm. So retail's changing just like every industry is changing, and we want a high caliber, productive workforce that can work with technology, serve customers, and run stores within a store, run a toy department, run an electronics department. And to equip them and for us to attract the talent that we need to attract, we wanted to make an investment. We felt like the timing was right, that it was a good business decision. So we raised wages, we raised our minimum wage, we raised the average, we took the top end of our wages and we moved them up. We invested in store structure, we're investing in technology. I was in Morrisville last night, which is going to be one of our Academy stores. And in the back room, because we've been able to bring our inventory levels down, we've taken some space, and there are 3 classrooms back there where people will be taught as new associates how to work with our technology and how to run a business. And we'll teach them retail basics. We talked to one department manager today who's one of our best department managers, I bet, in the market, who is, she speaks Spanish as her primary language. She's learning English, and her English is better than mine, probably. And she needs to be an assistant manager. We need people like that equipped to be able to grow and develop. And, our stores are better for it. Our in-stock levels are up. Our clean, fast, friendly scores have improved. We did see a decline in market cap the day that we announced the second tranche of this of $21 billion in a day. Our share price went down by that amount. That was a breathtaking day because, many of those that are investing in Walmart shares want us to deliver an earnings increase next quarter. But we made a decision, the board along with the management team, that we're going to make some decisions over these next few years that are going to position our company to be here 50 years from now. And businesses come and go, and retailers come and go. And I carry around on my phone the top 10 retailers by decade over the years, and they grow and they die. And Walmart's now over 50 years old. We're almost $500 billion in revenue. We've got 2.3 million associates. Our success in the future is not promised to us. We will have to change in some ways dramatically to be here in 50 years. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change Walmart in a way together with our leadership team so that it's here in 50 years.
So one of the things about being a CEO is you do have to make strategic bets. You do have to change the company. And it's not always the case the markets respond favorably. So tell us how you deal with that pressure from the markets where you lose $21 billion in a day of market cap. How do you stay the course, and what are the things that you look to that give you the confidence in staying the course?
Yeah. So communication's key. And in this instance and in others, we've tried to share with everyone what the strategy is and to give them milestones that they can measure us against. And we're on track with those milestones. And so the investment community then has a decision to make. Do I believe in the strategy? Do I believe they can execute it? And am I okay with the timeline, the time horizon? And in our case, what's happening right now is that many investors are saying, we think you have the right strategy, and we believe you can execute it, but we don't know how fast you can execute it, and we don't know exactly what the outcome's going to be, and retail is changing so much that we're just going to take a wait-and-see attitude. So our share price is kind of staying like this for the most part as a result of that, which is just something that we have to live with. Now, every quarter, we're giving updates on clean, fast, and friendly scores, inventory levels, talking about what we're doing with price investments, how we're growing in e-commerce, and our results will drive what happens with the share price.
Mm-hmm. So talking about e-commerce, I know that you consider yourselves to be big competitors with Amazon, and that you see a real future in this e-commerce idea. Tell me about the strategy. What advantages do you have with the combination of an online presence with bricks and mortar versus the pure online play? And we've kind of seen this story before in the early days of Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And so what have you taken away from that example?
I think the way that we think about it is we have to be the best brick and mortar retailer out there. And we have an opportunity to grow our business and grow share in the things we've always done. At the same time, we're growing e-commerce business. We've got a business now that's north of $12 billion and should be much bigger. We're accelerating the level of growth that we have with the investments we're making, including the acquisition of Jet, so that business on its own performs better, et cetera. And then we find ways to put them together. The way we put them together ultimately is simply trying to do things for customers that save them time, save them money, give them access to the broad assortment that they want, and make it a delightful experience. And whether you're doing that with artificial intelligence and machine learning, or you're doing it with a physical store, it's still the same outcome that you're trying to provide. And so we believe that by creating this seamless experience, is what we've been using as a term to describe it, our customers are going to be able to almost forget whether they're buying online, buying in a store, buying on a mobile app. And I personally already live that way. I don't know how you live, but like when I was on vacation Christmas last year, and when it was over, I'd kind of checked out of work to the extent that I could for a few days. And looking back on it, my wife and I had ordered a lot of goods online delivered to our home. We had ordered goods that we went and picked up at Sam's Club at the drive-thru, where you don't have to go in the club. We have a pickup point in our market that's not even a store. It's just a place where you pick up your grocery orders. We'd used that. We'd gone to a store and done a pickup. We'd shopped in a neighborhood market. We'd shopped in a supercenter and never really thought about how we were shopping. That's just how we shopped. It was what we needed at that moment for the purpose that we were trying to meet at that time. And I think that's how retail is going to be. We're growing our marketplace. We've got millions of items now online. So you're going to be able to find what you want we're going to stand for price. And this mobile experience or voice or whatever comes next, we've got to play in those arenas so that as the internet solves problems, which is probably the best way to think about this, is just that the internet's going to solve all kinds of problems. It already is. That's how these businesses are being built. That will be true for shopping as well. So you could almost think of it as wants and needs. On anything that's a need, the internet, technology, and we retailers can solve that stuff for you. So if you just want to be in stock on 64-ounce Heinz ketchup all the time, we'll have it in your refrigerator in stock without you really having to think about it at some point. But on the want side, where you want to explore, coming in a store and smelling the citrus or seeing what's new in Christmas, you may still want to do that sometimes, or doing that online in some sort of a mobile fashion. This for Black Friday, mobile was 70% of our digital orders. And it's growing like that. So however you want to do that, exploration will have the tools so that you can do it.
Yeah. So you have to embrace technology and the opportunities that provides in order to stay relevant. How do you get your employees to embrace these technology changes when those changes could lead to fewer jobs within Walmart?
So we have a lot of different parts of the business. We've got technology associates, engineers, data scientists, mathematicians that live in Silicon Valley. We've got talent in India. We've got talent in Arkansas. We've got talent all over the world. And they're focused on a certain set of things that we're building. Then we have to also convert the entire enterprise to being a digital enterprise. And there will be more automated fulfillment opportunities in the future. Technology, both software and hardware, is going to play a role in the business that will transform the business. And ultimately, I do think we'll have a higher level of productivity. We've got 1.6 million associates in the United States. I think that we will equip people with technology in a way that they will be more productive. Because while change is happening fast, it's not happening that fast. I mean, our store traffic's still up, and you know, we're not Barnes and Noble. We sell bananas, we sell milk. It's a little bit of a different situation. So I think, you know, ultimately there's a societal question about jobs that's a much bigger question. From a Walmart point of view, I think that's how it'll play out.
Tell us a little bit more about the Jet acquisition, which is a fairly recent acquisition, and how that plays into your overall e-commerce strategy.
Yeah, do any of you shop on Jet? Okay, we got 3 people, 4, 5. Everybody pull out your phone, download the Jet app, and it'll help you understand why we made the acquisition. We see an opportunity to take trust-building pricing to customers in a different way, partially through what Mark Laurie and the Jet team built. These smart decisions around, I can use a debit card instead of a credit card and save money. I can give up a return privilege and save money. I can buy 2 that ship from the same place and I can save money, and pass those savings on to the customer so that you build a basket is a more efficient and more environmentally sustainable way to do e-commerce. Shipping eaches in brown boxes is not going to end up being a really good environmental solution for all of us. So we need to be smart about how we build an e-commerce business, not only from an environmental point of view, but from an economic point of view as well. And shipping multiple items is just more efficient than shipping one at a time. So many of the things that Jet developed will apply against the Walmart brand. We'll operate both brands. Jet over-indexes with millennials, more urban, has some brands that weren't available at Walmart, like Blue Buffalo dog food and some things like that. So there'll be some separation of the brands. Through those 2 brands and Sam's Club, we'll just build a much bigger e-commerce business in the U.S. And we're hard at work nailing all of the fundamentals that need to be in place to be able to deliver that now.
So speaking of the environmental consequences of your business, it wasn't that long ago that Walmart was held up as an example of waste and excessive packaging and so on, and now you're becoming a poster child around sustainability and environmental friendliness. How did that transition happen, and what are you doing to make that happen?
Yeah. So we went through a period where we were the Cinderella story. Everybody liked Sam Walton. Walmart was this underdog. And then at some point we became big and didn't get the memo. and society's expectations were greater than what we understood. We had grown up thinking if we serve customers well and we have good jobs and have good relationships with our own associates, we all started at the store level anyway, right? So we're all one family here. As long as we're good with customers and associates, everything else is okay. But it's not that simple. And when you get to be that size, you have this opportunity to make a bigger difference in the world that in some ways we weren't seizing. So we were facing criticism. And being in Arkansas, we started out with this phase of, well, don't pay any attention to what those New York papers say. They don't really know us. So for a few years, we just blew that off thinking, well, they just don't understand who we are and that we have the best of intentions and we're good people. Don't they know we're good people? So that criticism goes on. And then there's this moment in time when Hurricane Katrina hit and New Orleans flooded. And we were on conference calls. That was on a Labor Day weekend. And we had this habit of shipping in free water and sending things into areas that had been impacted by natural disaster. So we're on a conference call, and Lee Scott's our CEO, and I was responsible for Sam's Club, and we were shipping a bunch of stuff into the New Orleans area, Louisiana, Mississippi, both. And we were watching on TV as people were literally fighting for their lives. You may be too young to really remember this, some of you, but people on their roofs of their homes spray painting, there are 2 of us and 1 dog, save me. And we're watching this stuff happen, and Lee interrupts the conference call. I don't know how many of us were on there, but there might have been 20 of us or so. And he said, hey, what if we respond differently this time? What if instead of doing the things we just kind of habitually do that may help a little bit, we recognize how significant this problem is and we just throw everything we've got at it? So we decided to do that, and we stopped counting what we were sending. And we sent not only goods, but we sent a lot of money, and we sent our people. We had market managers and store managers and club managers driving from Ohio and all around the country, living and sleeping inside of Walmart stores and Sam's Clubs to help get them back open and to serve the community. We had a vice president landing emergency helicopters on a parking lot. We had an officer of the company administering CPR to a customer in a Walmart store. Just heroic stuff. So when all those people came home, and the situation calmed down, we started celebrating them. And when we did, we touched a nerve of pride that we had previously felt in the company. And we looked at each other and said, how could we have this every day? How could this Walmart that we know as being so special, how could that exist all the time? And it opened the door, and I give Lee all the credit for opening that door to let NGOs and the most critical people of Walmart come talk to us, the people that hated us the most. They might have had concerns about healthcare or labor or the environment, and some of them wouldn't even come talk to us. One of them in particular agreed to meet with us in a hotel outside of our hometown in the basement with the shades drawn if we both came from different entrances. And we sat in a circle, and I thought he was going to ask us questions about the environment, and all he wanted to talk about was wage rates and healthcare. And I was at first perplexed by, well, this guy's an environmentalist, and we invited him here to criticize us, and all he wants to talk about is labor and healthcare. To make a longer story a little bit shorter, a dot got connected for me and for us around what sustainability really is. And there are 4 systems conditions to create a sustainable planet. And one of them is you have to take care of the people on that planet. So social environmentally and social sustainability and environmental sustainability are inextricably linked, which then leads to what's your wage rate? What are you doing on healthcare? What kind of ladder of opportunity you're creating for people? And what are you doing about the environment? So we decided to eliminate waste, become supplied by renewable energy, sell more sustainable products. And today we've expanded into policies related to Thai shrimping and Bangladesh factory safety. We actually sent architects to Bangladesh to do scans of buildings to make sure they're architecturally sound, and created fairs for people to come in and buy fire doors and fire safety products to put in those factories, and the best and safest factories we stayed in because people in Bangladesh need jobs when other companies made a decision to leave. And we do all that through the lens of use the platform of the company to drive social and environmental sustainability that is good business. These things are good business. What we did in Katrina to respond to Katrina was good business. It looks expensive sometimes on the front end, but it pays back over time. That creates an environment where people like me want to work and stay. And all that fits together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you talk a lot about creating an atmosphere of transparency and trust, and everything you've just talked about is kind of supporting evidence. How do we more broadly deal with the trust issues? Where I say we more broadly, I mean the business community has created a real loss of trust in terms of the social contract and the belief that we're trying to do anything other than line our own pockets. So how do we restore the trust around we're trying to improve the lives of customers, employees, improve our footprint in communities and so on? And do you ever get frustrated that despite all the great things that you're working on, that there's no real shift in the public perception?
I think it's a concern. The words free enterprise or capitalism can be looked at in a negative fashion. And I don't think it's just true now. It's probably true in the 70s and other periods of time as well. And, over time, you are what you are. And the truth should come out and fairness should win the day. So I think transparency is part of the answer. And when you make a mistake as a business, you need to admit it. To the extent that you can and should, as you weigh all these things, be completely open and transparent about everything. And then it is what it is. And I hope not to be lumped in, as an industry or as a business with others that we don't deserve to be lumped in with. Mm-hmm. And when we make a mistake or fall short, let's talk about it as much as we possibly can. Mm-hmm. We have a sustainability report that we issue once a year, and we've set goals, for example, on social and environmental sustainability that we fall short on. And what we try to do is to say, we're hitting this one, we delivered that one, but we're short on this one, and here's why. And I think that's the approach that we need to take. I think the world is for sure getting more transparent, and it will be more transparent in the future than it has been. And when that light gets shined on Walmart, we want you to like what you find as much as possible. And when there's something that's not right, let's be honest about it and let's go do something about it. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the packaging of the product or compliance and ethics. One of the things I have experienced at Walmart is we've gone from, as I guess all businesses do, we've gone through these phases. I talked earlier about it was customers and associates, and then it broadened to be more stakeholders. Working in international for 5 years, we had a real focus on compliance and ethics. And I've learned what it means to really set up a fully functioning compliance program and ethics program, and the talent, the process, and the systems that are necessary to do that. And compliance is a function just like legal or just like merchandising or just like operations. And to be a great company, you have to be good at all of those functions. You can't just be good at one or the other. So you may find yourself, if you go to work for one of the larger companies, dealing with that breadth. And I personally like the breadth and variety of it, and maybe you will too.
So one of the things that's challenging about being a CEO when you have millions of employees and customers is helping those people understand what you do on a daily basis. You're active on social media. Is that your way of kind of shining a light on your daily routines and so on, or is there kind of a deeper strategy behind your social media activity?
Oh, I didn't want to be. Our team talked me into it and shamed me into it. Started telling me how old and out of touch I was, which hit a nerve, so I decided to do it. Started with Instagram, now on Facebook, and what it's kind of evolved to is a recognition tool. We had an associate earlier today, Chris, one of our assistant managers, that had this idea to take our lawn and garden area, and since we're not using it right now, build a bunch of bikes for Christmas and group them by size and put big price point signs on them. I don't know how many kids there are in Raleigh, Durham, but they're all getting a bike from that Walmart store because we built them all. But he showed initiative, and it's really impressive what he did. So we snapped a photograph, and if it's not already posted, it'll be posted today on Instagram and Facebook as a way to recognize him. So when we're out in stores and clubs, we try to do that and try to tell the story. And the responses I get back are almost exclusively from associates. There's some customer interaction, and it's actually a terrific tool. If we've got a weakness in a store, I hear about it from a customer. If we've got a need in a store, associates will frequently say, come to store number such and such, but don't tell my manager I invited you. That kind of stuff. So it's really working to surface issues, and it's primarily a way to recognize people. Mm-hmm. It's not probably what I would prefer to do personally. A lower profile would be more enjoyable. Yeah.
So I'm going to follow up on that. So I'm going to ask one more question before I turn it over to the audience. And so this low profile, that desire has been kind of knocked back because you've now become the star of these ads. And so how did you get talked into, how did you get talked into being the...
yeah, I was misled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this person walks into my office and they said, hey, well, it starts with this. They know how much I care about the company's reputation. I grew up in Walmart. I am a product of Walmart. I am proud of Walmart. And I understand Walmart in a way that those of you that don't work there don't. I've seen great people, smart people, hardworking people. I've seen us build a business that is incredible, and I'm really proud of it. And our reputation doesn't match the reality. We're not perfect. We've got all kinds of problems, but the reality is somewhere here, and the reputation somewhere down here, and that bothers me. So our team knows that, and a person walked into my office and said, Doug, we want you to show up at a store, and we want you to film this little commercial. It won't take you very long. It'll be about 30 minutes. We're not going to do much with it. We're just going to put it on a few social media type things on the internet. You may never see it, but let us try it and see if it scores, see how people respond to it. And the next thing I know, it's on TV. That's what happened.
Okay.
I'm ready for it to be done.
So you're not planning a whole series of these?
No, please no.
No, okay.
Please no.
All right, so let me turn it over to the audience for any questions that you might have. Yes. Get a microphone here.
Congratulations on your basketball victory last night. I fell asleep when it was 31-31, but I woke up this morning and saw the score. Were any of you there? How are you still awake?
Hey, Doug, thanks for coming down today. There was an article in Wall Street Journal 2 days ago. It talked about productivity of people who report to a younger manager is down by 12%. Productivity of people who report to younger managers is down by 12%. So tell me what challenges you face, or do you face that issue at all? When you have people who are more senior to you, in the different positions, how do you manage that?
Every day that goes by, I'm getting older, and it's less of an issue. I used to hear all the time, "You're so young for your job," and I don't hear that as much anymore. There were some really uncomfortable moments when I was in my 30s, and there were people that reported to me that were 50 years old or older. And I think what I learned is that listening and respect is really key. It kind of reminds me of my first day in a Walmart store. When I walked in as an assistant manager, the department managers looked at me and sized me up in the first few moments. Is this a person who's going to be a jerk? Or are they going to listen to me? Are they going to try to tell me what to do even though they have no idea what they're doing? Or are they going to listen to me and support me and give me what I need so I can be successful? Because I've been doing this for years. I choose this over and over again. And if you listen to people, support them, and give them what they need, eventually they don't care what your age is. I'll just say one more quick story. The first day I moved into the office, they had me in a merchandising department with a lot of people that were more senior than I was. And one of those people walked up to me in the hallway the first day and said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" So, "Well, you're a young MBA graduate with no store manager experience. That's not where we get buyers. We're all experienced store managers. You're not going to fit here. This isn't going to work for you. And I thought, oh, that was harsh.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Within a week or two, that same person was saying, hey, Doug, come over here. How do you turn this computer on? Seriously. We just gotten this new tool called Retail Link, and you could run all these queries and learn what was selling. And the buyers were expected to learn how to use that new tool. So we became really good friends. Now I'm the old guy. I said, how do you work this thing?
Hi, thanks so much for coming and speaking with us today. One of the themes and ethos that seems to permeate a lot of our classes here is that you can do well by doing good. And that might mean by taking care of your employees, investing in your suppliers, investing in your community. You talked a little bit about the investment you made, the $2.7 billion, and explaining that strategy to investors. Can you talk a little bit about some of the pushback that you faced from the investor community over the years when you have tried to do good as a company, and how have you overcome that resistance?
Yeah. So this story that I told you about our sustainability transformation, our mindset shift after Katrina, in the first few years when we would try to talk to Wall Street about it, they tuned out. So we would have an investor conference and we would talk about the numbers, we'd talk about what was going on in core operations, and when we started to talk about sustainability, you could literally see their eyes go down and they went on their laptop or whatever and they just tuned it out. They weren't upset that we were doing it, even though we were trying to explain this is good for our business. We went from paying people to pick up the cardboard behind our Sam's Clubs to selling the cardboard because we finally figured out it had a value. The first year we went through this change when I was at Sam's, we went from paying people to making $50 million in income selling cardboard. We just had the wrong mindset. Sustainability is good business financially, and we can show it to you on the P&L. But Wall Street, the first few years, just tuned out. And now there's a group, there are different groups. There is a group that says anything you do must translate into improved cash flow and earnings growth, or you shouldn't do it. And I just disagree with that. I don't think that's the whole story. Yes, we're expected to grow earnings, and I believe the investments we're making will grow earnings in time. I just may have a different time horizon in mind than that particular investment group. Now, there are all kinds of other investment groups that do care about this, and they come to see us, and they encourage us, and they challenge us on what we're doing as it relates to fish, or what we're doing as it relates to healthcare or other areas. And they invest in the company, but they're not our biggest shareholders. They're just one piece of the puzzle. In the case of Walmart, we have a huge advantage in that half of the company is still owned by the founding family. And they have a mindset that's longer term, that cares about culture, cares about associates, and cares about sustainability, social and environmental. So when we are interacting with the family wants to know, what are you doing for our associates? What are you doing around sustainability? So I get this balance. And the investors, the Walton family in particular, loves the tension that I feel and the management team feels to deliver results and do good, because it's that tension that causes you to make your best decisions. But it does require you to have your thinking cap on. You're constantly balancing different things as you try to deliver this ultimate outcome. There's one over here. I can hear you, I think.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing about the family and the diversity at Walmart. I think that's really cool. How do you foster that kind of diversity in that familial environment within Walmart with such different types of people that are part of your organization? Yeah.
One thing that we do is we have associate resource groups that represent their interests within the company, and they're influential with me and with others. We've got a pride group, African American group, all kinds of groups, new ones popping up every now and then. And we engage with them and we hear from them. These Saturday morning meeting opportunities and other meetings that we have give me a chance to talk openly about diversity and inclusion and what kind of culture we're trying to create. And we just, I think, have to a large extent woven diversity into everything we do, whether it's our advertising. We had a customer stop us today. The item was called Little People in the toy department, And this particular customer was a Caucasian, but with an African-American child. And she said, I want an African-American version of this Little People item. And Walmart's usually really good at this, but you messed up on this one item. But I shop here because you're really good at this. Well, that's an example of our business benefiting from the fact that we think in a diverse and inclusive way. And I've already been in touch with the toy merchant, and they're going to fix it on that one SKU so that we don't have that problem in the future. So it's good for business. We benefit from having diverse teams and are trying to become even more diverse over time. Talking about it all the time, promotional decisions, communication, all that is key. In this situation, you can't talk about something one time or make a set of decisions one time and then go on to something else. You're constantly like a gardener working on keeping these things alive.
Thank you. Hi. We see some acquisitions in the Brazilian market with other stores, other flags. And how do you keep the culture from United States to those completely different stores that Walmart acquired over the past years?
As we've grown globally and made acquisitions, we've looked for companies that are culturally aligned with us, act with integrity, have strong governance, and hopefully a business model that's somewhat familiar with ours. So most recently, this acquisition in Africa would have fallen into that category. Operating in sub-Saharan Africa is quite different than operating in Canada or the UK, for example, but the management team had a culture and a set of values that was very much like ours. So we found, even after the acquisition, that they had very good compliance and ethics and governance in place. So picking the right one to begin with is important. And then secondly, having the right checks and balances in the business so that you can check in on things from time to time. Some independence is also important.
Hi, thank you for being here. Some of the stories that you've shared seems like you've created a culture where people can come to you with feedback and come to you with ideas. How have you found that you've been able to build that and maintain that in such a large company where your associates and customers feel empowered to speak up and share their ideas and feedback?
Yeah. To the extent you can, you need to try and keep it small. I go to meetings sometimes where you can tell people are just trying to impress, and they're on play mode and they just want to talk for 30 minutes about all the great things they're doing. And those really aren't very productive discussions. We make more progress when we talk about what's not going well and when we're just frank about it. And I think a career tip would be, if you want to get promoted, build trust. Build trust by being honest and just get straight to it. If something's not good, say it. I made a mistake over here, or that's not right, I need to work on this. Yeah, these things are going well, but this is what I'm focused on. That'll help your career maybe as much as anything else.
Hey, thanks for being here. You talked a little bit about, or we have talked a little bit about how Walmart has really taken the lead on so many different elements, from operations to culture to sustainability. And I guess I wonder whether or not, with all the power that Walmart wields in today's economy, do you feel any obligation to kind of be a thought leader and kind of share some of your lessons learned and share some of those best practices, especially around things like sustainability? Or is there some balance to that around maintaining a competitive advantage and kind of how that impacts your reputation as well?
Yeah, great question. When we first started on this journey early in, that came up, and we made a conscious decision on matters related to sustainability to be completely open about them. And I had this great opportunity at one point to call one of our biggest competitors. We had made a change in one of our units to move from a Freon refrigeration system to a closed-loop CO2 system, which in the case of a leak has a lot less harmful impact on the environment than the previous system we were using. And just to use that one example, I called the competitor and said, we think we've invented something new that is more efficient financially and better for the environment, and we wanted to invite your team to come see it. That was fun. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, like waiting for the but or the whatever that was going to come next. And then eventually the person said, really? Where is that place? I'll send somebody. And I thought that was really cool. So we compete on lots of things, but there are areas where legally we can share information, and we should, and we challenge other people to do the same with us, and it happens sometimes. And now these groups have formed. We've got these groups within the company that engage universities and NGOs and suppliers and others that are kind of think tanks on subjects, toxins, how do we get toxins out of our products, packaging, sustainable farming, those kinds of things. And so you end up open sourcing Walmart. Walmart, to some extent, has become an open platform. I would like for it to be even more so.
Thanks. Do you or your wife prefer organic food only? And what do you think about organic and natural food in general?
I've been married a long time, and I've learned not to speak for Shelley. On behalf of myself, we drink organic milk, we use organic eggs, we do eat some organic products, and at Walmart we're carrying more organic. As we think about feeding 9 billion, 10 billion people in the world, policies around GMO, pesticides. I got to go to a farm in Iowa not long ago and learn how cover crops are helping in Iowa with some of the issues we've had with rivers to offset the need for pesticides, and how we might weave some of those policies into our own decisions. And we work with Kellogg's and General Mills and Cargill and everybody else trying to develop policies that create a more sustainable environment in this country and in others. So I think using Walmart as a platform to do that is smart. And for me personally, you know, our family eats everything from Walmart and Sam's Club, so I need it to be great and safe and healthy.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question here.
Thanks for speaking with us today. Over the past many years, I know Walmart has been actually banned in some of America's largest cities, New York, San Francisco, and only recently come to Washington, D.C., Chicago. Are those efforts that Walmart now feels comfortable saying we're okay living without having stores in those largest cities, or are those locations that you're still pursuing and hoping that maybe the message of sustainability in more recent times will help local municipalities come to accept Walmart?
Yeah, there have been fights in all kinds of markets, big and small. Politics and sometimes labor don't want us to be part of the equation. We don't want to be somewhere where we're not wanted. The reality is, in those situations where we've gone through and opened, customers want us to be there. And so you've got this disconnect between what politics in the market might say and what the people that live there actually want.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today, and I know the audience sort of loved all those experiences from you. Here's a little small token of appreciation for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.